Welcome to Unwiring Tech. I'm your host Ranjana, and in this episode, I'm going to explore the controversial 10-year moratorium on state level AI regulations proposed in the US. What does this mean for innovation, consumer protection, and the balance of power between federal and state governments? Join me as I explore the origins, supporters, critics, and the potential path forward for this significant legislative move. On May 22, 2025, the US House of Representatives narrowly passed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, a comprehensive budget reconciliation package. But buried in Section 43201 under a rather bureaucratic title, Artificial Intelligence and Information Technology Modernization Initiative. It outlines the provisions to modernize federal IT systems using commercial AI technologies, aiming to increase operational efficiency, automation, cybersecurity, and service delivery. Here is what the law says, and I quote: "No state or political subdivision may enforce any law or regulation regulating artificial intelligence models, artificial intelligence systems, or automated decision systems during the 10-year period beginning on the date of the enactment of this Act." Hence, effectively preempts all states and local governments from enacting or enforcing AI-related regulations for a decade, centralizing AI policy authority at the federal level. It even threatens to roll back existing state protections like Tennessee Elvis Act, which guards artists' voices from being cloned, and California's laws against biased AI recruitment. Translation: if California wants to regulate AI deepfakes during its next election cycle, it can't. If New York wants to ban biased hiring algorithms, not allowed. So now, if the law passes, states will be officially benched until 2035. Alright, let's now turn the mic to those in favor of moratorium, the supporters and architects behind this controversial 10-year pause on state AI regulation. Their core argument: fragmented state laws would create a regulatory nightmare. AI innovation, they argue, needs a single national framework and not a patchwork of 50 conflicting approaches. That's the sentiment echoed by many House Republicans and industry leaders backing the move. One of the most vocal proponents is Representative Jay Obernolt, a Republican from California and notably one of the few members of Congress with a background in computer science. During a recent Energy and Commerce Subcommittee hearing, Obernolt made the case clearly. As I quote, "Right now, there are over 1,000 bills on AI regulation pending in state legislatures. Imagine the chaos if a federal agency or worse a small AI startup has to navigate this tangled web. 50 states, 50 directions, no consistency. That's a recipe for stagnation, not innovation." And he's not wrong in saying that. As of 2025, over 700 AI-related proposals have been introduced across federal and state legislatures, up from just 191 in 2023. For example, Colorado passed the first comprehensive AI risk law, while California has floated several AI bills. This surge reflects a growing urgency to address AI's impact on civil rights, employment, and privacy. However, for companies building models that operate nationally or globally, this creates a legal minefield. Senator Bernie Moreno of Ohio also weighed in. AI doesn't understand state borders. It's extraordinarily important that the federal government, not individual states, set the rules for the interstate commerce. It is in the Constitution. Senator Ted Cruz drew a historical parallel, citing the internet tax moratorium that helped the web flourish in its early days. He argues that a similar pause is necessary to let AI evolve without being crushed by premature or inconsistent regulation. Ultimately, supporters say the goal is to remove barriers, attract investments, and accelerate AI deployment, especially in the public sector where federal IT systems are notoriously outdated. But this brings us to a tricky crossroads. Because while the intent is to establish federal oversight, there isn't a comprehensive national AI framework in place just yet. So the big question is, what happens in the meantime? That's exactly what we'll explore in the next segment. The pushback and why critics are sounding the alarm. The critics argue that this move isn't just short-sighted, it's dangerous. At the heart of this concern is federal overreach. Critics say that the moratorium hands control to the private sector while sidelining states, who are often the first to respond to real-world harms caused by AI. They warn that this 10-year pause strips communities of their ability to act in the face of algorithmic discrimination, surveillance, misinformation, and other emerging threats. Over 140 advocacy organizations, including Public Citizen and the AI Now Institute, have come out strongly against the measure. Even some Republicans, like Senator Marsha Blackburn, have voiced opposition, citing fears that moratorium could erase critical local protections. Senator Edward Markey put it bluntly in a post on X, saying, "The Republican 10-year moratorium on state AI regulation won't lead to an AI golden age. It will lead to a dark age for the environment, our children, and marginalized communities." There is also the legal uncertainty. If the moratorium clears both chambers of Congress and becomes law, it is likely to face constitutional challenges from state attorneys generals, especially in places where AI regulations are already on the books. Whether those challenges would succeed remains unclear. Critics see the moratorium as part of broader Trump administration agenda to delay or dismantle regulations aimed at curbing AI's harms. They argue that this move prioritizes rapid deployment over public safety and civil rights. Meanwhile, industry groups like the US Chamber of Commerce are cheering the bill. They warn that inconsistent and premature regulations at the state level could smoothen innovation and give global rivals like China or the EU a strategic advantage. So, the tension is clear. On one side, a push for national unity to supercharge innovation. On the other, a call for local autonomy to protect citizens. The proposed 10-year federal moratorium would drastically curtail state levels' effort to regulate artificial intelligence, especially laws focused on accountability, transparency, and consumer protection. Some already enacted and others under proposal are designed to ensure that AI technologies serve the public good and do not perpetuate harm. The moratorium would freeze such legislative efforts, stalling or invalidating a range of targeted regulation. However, despite this broad reach, the moratorium is suggested to allow a few narrow exceptions. Laws that support AI deployment without imposing new responsibilities will still be allowed. For example, Texas AI Advisory Council, which promotes AI innovation in public agencies without regulatory enforcement, would likely to remain in force. Similarly, prosecution of criminal offenses involving AI, such as deepfake abuse, remains permissible. California's AB 602 criminalizing non-consensual AI-generated pornographic content and Virginia's law on AI-generated revenge porn would still be enforceable due to an amendment in the bill. Now, at the end, what's the road ahead? Though the moratorium has passed in the House, its path forward is far from certain. The Senate will now debate the bill, and opposition is expected from both Democrats and some Republicans. A major procedural hurdle is the Bayh rule, which blocks non-budgetary items from being included in the budget reconciliation bills, which require only a simple majority. Since the AI moratorium does not affect federal revenue or spending, it risks being stripped if ruled out of order by the Senate parliamentarian. If the Senate ends up passing a version of a bill that differs from the House's, the two chambers will enter negotiations, a conference meeting, to hammer out a final version. Whether the AI moratorium survives the process remains uncertain, but what's clear is that the outcome will have a lasting consequences for how AI is governed in the US. At its core, it raises big question. Should the federal government set one unified standard for AI, or should states be allowed to act based on their citizens' need? Should it prioritize rapid innovation or make sure there is accountability and public protection along the way? And who should really shape the future of AI tech giants? or democratic institutions. This clause pits federalist standardization against state sovereignty, industry interests against civil rights, and speed against safety. However, the Senate and Congress decide to move forward. Their choice will help define how the US manages both the promises and perils of artificial intelligence, not just today but for years to come. Thank you for joining me on Unwiring Tech.